Welcome to another episode of Justin the Food Entrepreneur Show. I'm Justin Bizzarro. I'm your host. That's Bizzarro. For anyone who's out there, you can find us on Instagram or on Facebook or on LinkedIn. You can find me as well. So I'm not always great at updating social media, guys. I tend to try to be on the podcast and make connections and be face to face with people. I just am better at business that way, getting to know people and build relationships. So nothing personal. Maybe I'm old school in today's world, but that's just what I believe. I think we build better connections that way in long-term relationships. And just to give you guys an example of that, uh, Dennis from Chicken and Waffles out of Kansas City, I've known him now for about 4 years when I was podcasting out of Nashville. I did it with him, and him and I still talk on the phone regularly. His father and my father are going through similar things. And, you have someone that you met on a podcast that's now your friend and entrepreneur buddy, and you can talk for an hour on the phone while you're driving from Cleveland, Ohio to Baltimore, Maryland, for example. And I think that is what life's about, making those connections as an entrepreneur, having people and relationships that you can talk to about when things are hard or give you ideas like, oh, maybe you should do central production, or maybe you should change your menu a little bit, or have you thought of this? It doesn't mean you need to do it, but certainly you shouldn't pass it off. Sometimes it's just worth flushing things out. I've learned that with age and wisdom for sure. Nothing's a bad idea. It's just how you look at it and whether or not that idea that's thrown at you can also be looked through multiple perspectives and give you a better idea later. And I will say this, since I got this question the other day, for everyone before I introduce our guest, yes, always be searching for relationships and individuals and be willing to ask questions to anyone you meet, because you never know if you're going to meet them again. You never know if that person is going to be a part of your life again. So opportunity to ask people questions. You're in a restaurant and you like what they're doing. Can I talk to the chef? How are you guys doing this? Those are great things as an entrepreneur. Do not be afraid to ask to tour someone's kitchen. Okay. I know that's weird. It's like going in someone's barbecue in their backyard, but it's okay. Okay. I've done it my whole life. People want to give me tours of their kitchens now. They want to brag about it. But before I did have to ask about it, I had to gain the knowledge myself in order to do business, to be a food entrepreneur. Honestly, I had to learn from everyone around me at a rapid rate. So with that being said, I had Matthew Kosoy with us for Rosalind Bakery and Jerry's Roast Pork out of San Francisco, California. How you doing today, Matthew?
I'm very well.
Yeah,
Getting
sorry.
it going out here.
Yeah, and you're in outer space, so I can understand.
Man,
There you
as
go.
many of us are in the Bay Area.
No, I like it. I spent a lot of time out there. Anyone who knows my story knows that it's where Food Service Partners started in 1998. Was in South San Francisco. So a lot of time Fisherman's Wharf, a lot of time restaurants. I'll just throw out some names. I'll give everyone a lot of time at places like the Garlic Row or the Stinking Rose and Oriental Pearl and Chinatown and restaurants like that. I can't remember the name of, there's a place there that serves like a beef house, like an old school beef house,
Oh,
steakhouse.
House of Roast Pork.
Yeah,
House of Prime Rib.
yeah,
Yeah.
House of Prime Rib, yeah. All sorts of places that, it's weird. Brings me back, but you tend to like your same places when you travel or your same hotels or whatever. Used to stay at the Stanford Court in San Francisco, and then that wasn't a Marriott property anymore. So bounced around a little bit for sure, but I love San Francisco, the Bay Area. So Jerry, Jerry's Roast Pork and Rosalind Bakery. For
Yep.
Matthew, let's talk about how you got to those businesses, Matthew, because neither one of them have your name on them. So you build something, you're like me, you like probably building things, maybe creating things, it looks like. So let's talk about
Yeah.
your story. How little Matt to big Matthew. We'll do
Sure.
it that way. Let's talk about
Yeah.
your
So,
journey.
so I grew up in the Philadelphia suburbs, Mellar, New Jersey. Um,
Ah,
Pretty typical childhood, just Sunday school, T-ball type of thing. But my parents fortuitously put me on skis as a kid, and I like going fast. I love the velocity, and that connected me do a snowboard as like a young person, like 10, 12 years old. And because I was in the Jersey suburbs, not near a mountain, I was able to get my hands on a skateboard, and that connected me to the whole thing in Philadelphia, like Love Park City Hall, um, in the '90s, and FDR Skate Park, and that introduced me to like art and design, music, through that sort of like skateboard subculture at that time. And yeah, I was just like completely in love with like the art and the loud music and the high velocity of like punk rock and skateboarding and hip hop, heavy metal. Um, as also as a kid, simultaneously, my mom was like putting me in front of computers, like Commodore 64 type of things, and I would just spend a lot of time on the internet with my brothers and messing around, and kind of quickly in middle school and through high school was connected to some heady nerds who understood some programming concepts as teens, and that sort of prepared me for what became my first career, which was web development.
Okay, so let's talk about that because I think anchors in life, I think they anchor us for our future. I don't think I think we're more of a snowball than not. We kind of collect things as we go through life and that they help us build a bigger life, if you will.
Fully. Yep.
And so let's anchor this because I think it's important. One, the velocity thing, the willingness to go fast, the willingness to use music as a source of energy. Okay, because I think that that's important for all of us to understand. It's for me too. I am not musically inclined. Let's just put it that way. I've never truly explored it in any way other than singing in my car. And so, but uh, I have this the situation now where I'm definitely more involved with music and understanding music from a step parent perspective. And so, as an athlete or someone that's in sports, I have an understanding of what music theory is and things like that now that I never thought I would. And it's a beautiful thing. I also understand my whole life, whether I was on a tractor or on the farm as a kid mowing lawn or fields or dragging fields or planting or picking whatever I was doing for whoever, that music played a part of that experience for me. Hip hop, especially in the 90s, for sure.
Yeah.
Grunge at the Nirvana, even though I still can't understand it. I still have to read it to understand the words sometimes, but I truly grew up on that type of music and that type of energy. And also the 80s mentality of if you keep working hard enough, you can accomplish anything, just don't give up. And I grew up and we were a latchkey generation. So our parents didn't really worry about us in the same way that we worry about kids now or cell phones or tracking. We just didn't have those things. So we learned independence. So I want to talk about music and web development. I want to talk about that experience and I want to talk about why skateboarding. I mean, for me, it was soccer and I skateboarded,
Uh-oh.
but BMX bikes was a
Sure.
big for you.
Well, it was independence.
Why?
It was really just
Yeah.
the it was like creative, and it was independence. It was me being able to like go out and not have to be judged by teammates or you know it was, I don't know, I want to get into some like heady negativism here, but as a youth, like
Yeah.
sometimes it's hard to have like high self-esteem, and I just kind of like gravitated towards that independent sort of, I could lose myself in trying to practice a trick and hopefully not get too hurt. But yeah, I mean, for me, it was just, it took over everything as soon as I started doing it, and I wasn't able to focus on academics or pretty much anything. Um, yeah, I loved it. I loved finding the things that not everybody else was into. And at that time, you know, especially in that sort of space, like there weren't too many of us. Um, it was a form of rebellion against my parents. They were like, "Come play golf," or "Come go see." Like my mom wanted to take me to Broadway musicals. Do love Andrew Lloyd Webber, and I was like, "I need the exact opposite of what you're showing me, mom. Like I love you to death, but I need to do a different thing here." And yeah, it's helped create like a rich foundation for being independent, for experimenting, and being willing to take risks.
Yeah, and I think we need to pay attention to the music that we like and why. I don't think we don't need to be judgmental. We just need to understand the frequency of which the music is that our bodies and our minds respond to. That energy is different for all of us. We respond to it differently, and we have an independent relationship with it, and the world around us no different. And when we start to see things that way, especially as entrepreneurs, we can use things like that effectively. Okay,
Yep.
and I'm going to get a little heady for everyone for 1 second. You can anchor these things in your body. Like now, I don't need the music. I can just pound my chest right now. My adrenaline just goes to the roof because during music or running or athleticism or high moments of performance, I then anchor that experience in the music. Okay. That's a way to anchor things. That's a way life is hard. I'm stressed. I have anxiety. My business just had a fire. How do I deal with it? 3 pounds on my chest and I'm centered because my adrenaline pounds. For that moment, for that time, I can center myself. I can get back to what I'm worried about later, but right then I need the adrenaline to get through it. And everyone thinks that's crazy, but it's true. Okay. Life gets hard. Life can be difficult. We pivot. We go from one career to another, like we're talking about. I've been in food service, then I've just been in hotels for a while. I'm in like movies and media and podcasting now, and I don't even know what I'm really doing. I'm just doing it right now because I feel that that's just keep going, don't stop. Okay, so let's talk about the transition here into a food entrepreneur realm because
Yeah.
there's a in you and how you got from Philadelphia area to San Francisco. Let's talk about
Yep. Yep.
those things because I think they're important.
So we're gonna time travel here. We're going from like high school in 1997, skipping forward to like 10 years to 2012. Really, um, at the beginning of the transition, I basically moved to Philly and did school at the Art Institute, which is like an unaccredited university, and I was able to leverage my experience doing some basic software stuff and the time I'd spent in front of a computer as a kid to make like a content management system using PHP. And because I was at the skate park and I had this skill, I was able to meet people who like needed that for their small businesses. And they were graphic designers. They were a guy named Sean Carboy who was a shoe designer pulled me up to work for Little Devil, and which is like a BMX clothing company that's based out of King of Prussia. I think they're still around in some form, but long story short, Carboy put me on, and that helped me meet other people in the design and graphic design space, and it pulled me away from the gigs that I was working on. Like I was helping my dad with his construction stuff, and I was like a schlepper for him, but like I got to experience like training and demo and some basic trades there through my dad, and it got me away from that, and it got me to a space where I could make enough income to survive as an adult or a young adult through my 20s. And around 2003 or 4, I had like a big life change, like broke up with a person, and um got an opportunity to move to Brooklyn for to work in a creative consulting agency, and just took the chance and moved to New York. And pretty quickly, I met a new person who I'm now married to, and we have children together. And
That's awesome.
the whole time, like I kind of was still independent. And I didn't really lock down a lot of full time gigs as that at that point in my career. It was still a lot of freelancing, and I created my first LLC to just serve larger agencies and kind of acted as like a hired gun as a freelancer to do projects on like a case by case basis. And yeah, still skating, still music, and all those things. And finally, after Saba and I got married, I proposed that we move to California because I had started surfing in New York City, and like a bunch of dudes like Scott and John Boxell, Mike Spears, Jay Lang, Mike O'Shea, Maze Georges, and a bunch of other crews, the Danglers. They were like, yeah, come to Rockaway and come get wet, and that just changed everything for me because I had denied surfing as a young adult. I was like, I didn't want to have anything near it. I wasn't into the neon wetsuits or like the short boards, and it just like connected the full triangle for me, and full addiction into surfing. And shortly after I was married, me and the homies took a trip out here in California, and I was just like, what am I doing in New York? We gotta get out of here. And lease was up. It was time to either move to a new neighborhood. And I just proposed to my wife. I was like, hey, let's go to California, be near your sister, be near my brother. And she got a full-time job at Google, and she's still there 14 years later.
That's awesome.
And yeah, totally. It's amazing. Um, and yeah, after being out here for a year or two, it got really rough for me because I was exposed to startup culture out here, and it was just a totally different type of environment where like the last job that I had, they did some really shady stuff, and it soured me on wanting to spend any more time in that industry. I had this great discontent of building another marketing site for Cool Brand X for model year Y. It just felt repetitive, and I knew that I wanted to build something, but I wasn't sure what. And I had a bunch of friends in Philly who I worked with, a Little Devil. His name's Ralph Stallenwerk, and Shaky Sean, I forget his last name right now. Shaky, I'm sorry if you see this. My bad. But yeah, those two dudes started a print shop in the bathroom of a retail store off of South Street called Awesome Dudes Printing. And I was just so motivated by these guys, like giving up everything to start something physical in the real world, in like the most low key DIY type of banner. And I'm like, if these guys can do it, I can do it too. And I was just motivated by that. So simultaneously, like seeing what they were doing, I had been like, my mom planted the seed about bread, and I had just had my first daughter, who's now 10. And my mom was like, let's go to Tartine and go pick up a loaf of bread so we can have like a nice Sunday meal together. And that first experience, this was like March of 2016, maybe February. It took almost 4 hours, 3.5 hours to get the loaf back to the house. And she just said it off the cuff. Was like, we should just try to make a bread instead of driving in one day. And I was like, okay, let's just see what happens. And it opened this whole world of biology and math and agriculture that I wasn't prepared for.
Yes, exactly what you mean. And
Yeah, yeah. So very quickly I started going down the rabbit hole of watching people make bread on YouTube and learning about scaling up recipes and having like a large amount of dough, and the benefits of you know uh, um, mass effect in bulk fermentation. And I was like, I love this shit. This is great. I would start to bring in the loaves to the startups I was working at, and people were really psyched on them, and it just built all this motivation for me to continue. And around, say, July or August of 2016, I approached the local farmers market here in Pacifica, about what it would take to get a booth. And the farmers market people guided me with like the legal process of entity registration, insurance requirements, and licensing. And I just did jump through all those hoops before I even knew how to make enough bread to get through a 4 hour farmers market. And
Yeah, yeah, you're like me. Build the plane as you're flying it, baby. Figure it out later. If you
oh
don't
my
figure it
lord,
out,
it's
yeah, I'm never gonna do it. So yeah,
it's
I know exactly.
never going to be perfect ever. Like
Never, ever. Yep, ever.
you just have to go for it.
And what you think you're building at the beginning is never where you end up. Don't get attached to it, guys. I love it because the ride and the adventure and the ability to pivot
Yes,
and grow is part of it. Anyway, go
precisely.
ahead. I love it.
Yeah, yeah. So, got the registration stuff done. Then I started to do research into like how I could learn to do industrial baking, and then where I could do industrial baking. Because like very quickly, I broke the new oven that I just installed in my home kitchen, and it was not going to look good for me to just spend 6 hours baking 2 dozen loaves, which would sell out in like 10 minutes. So,
Yeah.
did it. Found out that here in SF we're lucky to have San Francisco Baking Institute, which is a very special school that's dedicated specifically for bread and pastry. That's founded by Michelle Suas, who's like highly respected in this industry as an engineer, and she's an amazing human. Yeah, so signed up for 2 weeks of what I called bread boot camp that was scheduled for January 2017. And shortly after that, was going for it, doing pop-ups here in Pacifica.
I mean, this
Um,
is incredible, right? This is like
yeah,
I wanna anchor it just for the audience for a second.
yeah,
Or and if you're raising kids, just for everyone to be aware. Obsession is not a bad thing. It's by which the direction it goes, okay? If it's growing and it's in a direction where the individual can be obsessed about something and it can go in a direction that grows them or it's in a thing, we wanna encourage that. How do we take obsession and turn it into a positive thing? This is the same with employees, guys. These are the best employees. While they're at work, they're obsessed. How do we take it into a good thing where it's not so emotional? Okay. That's the whole
sure,
thing about being something as an entrepreneur is you generally have to deal with this. And then you want people who are obsessed. This is not a bad thing. You just have to understand that if you're a good entrepreneur, you too are obsessed with things. You want to master them, you want to get them right, and you want to do that the best that you can. I don't know why, but especially when you're doing industrial volume. When we were doing the hospitals, you mess up and you're making pennies profit because you're in hospital food. And you don't want to do that. You have to be meticulous and the details matter and everything. Just like in baking, I'm sure we can talk about it, Matthew, but the details matter so much and the ingredients and the recipes and getting them
everything.
exact every time, especially when you start scaling and going from 100 to 1,000 to 2,000
Yep,
and what that changes and how that changes based on equipment and all that. So I want to just emphasize that for everyone. The obsession is necessary to see it all the way from the beginning to the end. And the reason you jump before you even know how to do it is because you know that the obsession will carry you along the way while everyone is trying to figure out what the heck that you're up to. Because people are like, wait, you're doing what? Doing what? Why are
precisely.
you going this direction? So let's go from here, Matt, because I think that this is important. It's a giant step. But in a way, your choices and your willingness to listen to your gut and the energy around you put you in a place where you had this opportunity to do this. So I want to emphasize that
Yep,
for everyone also. So anyway, good
sure.
talk to you, man.
Yeah. So I had we moved out here, and we had bounced around a lot, and a couple different apartments in the city, and we started looking for a place to buy, and we ended up moving to a suburb of San Francisco. It's a beach town. It's kind of lazy. It's kind of under the radar, and it was also a food desert. There still isn't today. 10 years later, there still isn't a lot of food out here. And I leaned into that. So I knew that I had a product in my sourdough. I knew that we were moving into a point in the economy where like hyper locality was a key factor for like small businesses being successful. And I just leaned into that and fully committed, over committed to building something that, in hindsight, it probably could have done it 8 different ways to have maybe done it a little bit more cost effectively and maybe save me some grief. But I wanted to build something that would become a community hub and something that could identify a particular region in the Bay Area on like a larger scale. So I leased a 3,400 square foot grocery store that had been abandoned and started
I love it.
demoing. And like I could have done this in an 800 square foot room, but like no,
But you had the demo experience, right? You had been
yep,
given
all
it
the
from your
construction experience. Yep.
yeah.
So I at this time, now we're looking at like 2018. I'm in my second year of operating. I was leasing from a guy in Half Moon Bay who had a bakery down there for like 25 years. So the farmers market was working well. We were selling out, and I had this space to do the production, and I started to build a bit of a team. And yeah, I would work from like Thursday night until pretty much Saturday afternoon doing these giant bake sales and farmers market things and just getting crushed in 2 hours and not having any product left. And we started to pick up a little bit of a wholesale business because I wanted to continue to generate revenue. And I would do these midweek bakes where I would, work all night and then pack my product and do my invoicing and then deliver around the region to some local grocery stores. And yeah, I would go back to the bakery and start disassembling electrical and taking it all back to the panel and taking walls out and then taking the floor out and then we chip the concrete up and we did it all with family and friends.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I love it.
yeah,
All right.
yeah,
So, I mean, you have the space, you're starting to build a business. Like,
yeah,
let's
yeah,
talk about this. This is pretty
yeah,
incredible, right? And it shows
yeah.
being brave. So
Everything. Oh God,
bravery.
on so many levels because like, I had to. I didn't have a lot of money, so I had to borrow to finance the operation, and I learned about equipment financing. I learned about
Yeah.
refinancing. I learned about home equity lines of credit. I learned about maxing out credit cards and managing, payments back. And then I got to learn about managing labor costs and insurance costs and food costs and kind of was like working backwards the entire time, fully focused on one thing, one product. It was just the sourdough, the larger format tartine style loaf, just that. And little by little over time, I would add a product to my focus. Like I wanted to do a baguette. So we attacked that. And then, um, I hired people to do viennoiseries and croissants. And I hired chefs to develop a kitchen menu. And I would just be willing to be vulnerable and bring people into my fold who had more experience than me and were questioning my decision making and didn't see things from my perspective. And I was just, like I said, I was willing to take risks and
Yeah.
fail. And I had learned through software development that failure's fine. You can fail fast and pivot off of that and learn quickly to build a new experience and to ultimately become successful by being unwilling to give up. So, um, yeah, in 2020, we got pandemics, as we all know, and that like helped to cauterize the bakery as like a community hub because there was no food businesses. The grocery stores were sold out of flour, and we had just stacks of it. So we saw like hockey stick curve growth go through the first 2 years of the pandemic, and it was amazing. It really was. And yeah, I'm gonna jump straight to 2023 now. After like 3-4 years of trials and tribulations here in Pacifica, I applied for a program in San Francisco called Vacant to Vibrant, which was designed to bring small businesses into abandoned storefronts in downtown. And I was just, again, still willing to take this risk of putting it out there. And it put me onto like a bigger platform, because like Pacifica is the suburbs here. We're not like known for food or anything. We're not like Sonoma or Marin or Berkeley or Santa Cruz. It's a different scene here. And when I moved into that coffee shop, it was a ghost town, and people were questioning like everything. The food media was like, "What makes your bread special?" or "What's so unique about you?" And I was like, "I don't know, but you're gonna find out." And we just started showing up, and we started being there every day, and we started to build that business little by little. And it took a couple years, but then we were 7 days a week in downtown SF, and we started doing like 20 transactions a day at the beginning, and now we're doing 120. So it just it was consistency
Yeah.
and being willing to show up every day when it got really difficult, when you're paying an employee or two to sit around and do nothing, and in the rain, or just like when people weren't in the offices yet, because it's still a lot of work from home culture. And after about a year of operating in downtown, this is now we're in 2024. I went to the property management people in this very corporate section of San Francisco, which is like completely different from like independent DIY skateboarding punk person. I asked them if they had a commissary kitchen where I could make some grab and go sandwiches for the coffee shop. And Christine showed me what is now Jerry's Roast Pork. And I took that lease in August of 24 and worked tirelessly while operating the bakery and continuing to develop the team and the systems and the products there to create a concept for a restaurant. And I am not a chef. I mean, I am now by practice, but
Yeah, exactly.
I was not calling myself one at that time. And yeah, I've been really fortunate to work with some amazing chefs through the bakery. I'm going to shout out Scott Clark here from Dad's Luncheonette. I was motivated by him to do a business that was fully focused on one thing. So, it's like we're just going to simplify the whole thing. We're not going to do a deep, broad menu. We're just going to do a lunch business. We're just going to do 4 hours a day, and what can we do in this space? And I started to analyze the utilities and what we could do. And I didn't have gas. I didn't have a Type 2 hood. So we're going to emulate the Reading terminal market. We're going to emulate Tommy Dinnick's. We're going to emulate John's Roast Pork. We're going to represent Philadelphia in a different way here. And yeah,
Yeah.
sorry for jumping around, but
No,
back in
it's
the,
totally
back in
makes
the
sense.
pandemic, I got asked to develop a hoagie roll by a guy who has a restaurant in the Outer Sunset called Palm City Wines, and we did it. We did it. We made this semolina and sesame hoagie roll that uses like really good extra virgin olive oil and like well thought out flours and a couple secret ingredients, and we made this unique roll that is very South Philly. It is true. It's like I was modeling it after Sarcone's, and it is now like the main thing for my bakery because it serves and reflects my restaurant. And the roll is what makes the sandwiches dine. And we're using this roll for my version of the very traditional roast pork sandwich, which is, if you're from Philly, you'll know that the roast pork is really the thing. It's not cheesesteak. Are we still there?
This, and I just want to anchor for everyone, is that business is sometimes linear, even though we don't think so. we have an idea, we build a business, we have a bread. That bread becomes our hero, okay? And I want to emphasize this for everyone. He started in the sourdough, but now where the hoagie roll is the hero. I'm going to call it the hero, pun intended, and and then go into his hero product wasn't where he started. Okay, we're going to just anchor that where Matthew started but it did serve the hero product, then serve the bigger picture, which is to get into what's now Jerry's roast pork company. So
That's right.
and and so here's the thing I'm gonna anchor for everyone, okay? Is A, discipline and consistency always matter, okay? And everyone, if you can see this on my thing. It wasn't my intention, but that says Gorilla Brave Football Club. Okay, that's for everyone. That's a youth soccer club that I started. Okay, with a group of people I started played soccer with. So I have business partners. It's in the Denver area, and am involved in it. I am a volunteer coach also, but I started as a volunteer coach in rec with a team where we lost every game except for one. We decided to make the giant leap to stay together and not be split into boys and girls teams and rec and make this giant leap into a club system, which I have experience in. I soccer, so don't get me wrong, guys, coaching soccer, club soccer, all that, and growing up in soccer, as I mentioned. So, and traveling to Europe to play soccer and all of those things, in South America to play soccer and those experiences. So, I know what I'm doing. How I knew how to do a business by the time I was 18 years old is I allowed the world to give me experience. Just as we talked about here, I allowed myself at a very young age to be influenced by my parents as entrepreneurs. I allowed myself to be rebellious, yet what was true to me in my music and my choices and the things around me that influenced. And I chose my friends based on who the person was. So I had athlete friends, I had nerd friends, I had math friends, I had all friends, and I also went to a small school where there was only 25 kids in my class. We were the smallest class in the school history, all boys, by the way. Private school because I needed the flexibility to play soccer, and my parents wanted me to grow as a human. Why am I saying all this? Back to the soccer. We then get into a club team.
Sorry.
We're losing every game. We had no worries losing every game still. We're still developing. We play in this top tournament and we get killed 17-0, 11-0, 8-0. Okay. In this tournament, top tier tournament. And we only have 8 players, by the way, show up out of our team that we need 11 players on the field for. What am I saying? We are still going. We're still practicing. We're still playing. Why am I doing this with youth? Why am I not giving up on them? Why am I not throwing away? Well, I started building the plane as I was flying it, okay? But most importantly, what we are teaching them, and we are also as youth, and what we need to remember ourselves as adults is the consistency and the discipline to not give up ever is the thing that people root for you. If you have a great product, great. That's a one-time thing. Sometimes people are going to go, they want to jump from the next product to the next product to the next product, which could be entrepreneur to entrepreneur to entrepreneur. But the people that see that person day in and day out struggling and living a life that they may not be willing to live, which is risking everything and still showing up every day, those customers that eventually you win over by doing that is
Yep.
important. There's a reason Rocky in the movie, that movie is written where he goes all the rounds to the end and loses, yet people are still cheering his name in the first movie. That is a true world experience. Okay. Even in defeat, he won them over because he went the whole distance in the end. Okay,
Yep.
and that's important. That's a human story. It's not just a movie. It's written on the human experience. So I just want to emphasize that, Matthew. Let's talk about what it's been like now. I mean, we're talking 2024. We're about 2 years ish since that
Yeah.
point. And one of the other things before we continue, I just want to tell everyone this entrepreneurability, whether we're born this way or our minds eventually get trained this way, to remember details. details and recipes, particularly as food entrepreneurs, details in our business, standard operating procedures, rules,
Yep.
regulations. We remember it. And one of the things that I'm going to anchor in this episode for everyone is Matthew recalls timelines very well. Okay. If you're an entrepreneur, you need to remember your timelines very well because you need to go back and if you're looking back, remember the order by which things happen and the decisions in which they were made in that order so you can go back and reflect and do it better because we do live by a failure based life. We have to
Fully.
fail thousands of times before we get the one win. It is life. That's the way it goes. And it's the only way to raise yourself, your legacy, and your family. So let's talk about that because now we're still talking after all
Yeah.
this. We're talking 2023, the year of struggle. Now you just struggled for a year and you're like, I think I'm going to struggle again. Let's do a restaurant, right?
Oh yeah, totally. Well, I mean, the struggle bus
Discomfort, no
started at
matter.
the beginning because
Yeah,
like the bread is inherently difficult. And when you're doing bread at volume where you're doing 300 300 loaves a day or more, it's just a physical task. And without a high budget or like the um the gravity of like a well-known bakery, like finding talent, finding people to be able to do the work is inherently difficult. But I want to mention something here that I failed to mention at the beginning of the conversation, which is like the names of my businesses are named after my grandparents. And
there you
I wanted to just like put that out there. Like I failed in the naming of my business and I pissed a lot of people off here in Pacifica. And I confused a lot of bakers when I was at SFBI because I had chosen this name that I thought was cool, but it wasn't, and I sort of missed the mark. And after some like community backlash, because like people are very protective of locales here, and they're like there's like this outsider insider thing, and like the silver lining of having it to change the name of a business at the beginning is that you get an opportunity to rethink things. And I chose to name my business after my grandmother because it's a strong feminine name. I felt that would create some family roots here in the Bay Area, and it identifies with people. And I kind of did the same thing when I did Jerry's. I named it after my grandfather. So the two shops are named after family people, and it's tying that thread back to where I grew up fully, by family. Um, but it's to your point, Justin, like you need to be willing to fail and have the confidence or stupidity to just continue and continue to fail, continue to try and continue to show up day in and day out and do things that other people wouldn't do in order to be successful. And
yeah.
I'm in the middle of a 20-year plan. I'm only halfway through at this point, and we're starting to see really amazing projections, and the quality of the work that we're doing now is just, I mean, it is very, very high quality, really tasty pastries that are unpretentious and very accessible. And you don't, we have the lines and we have the following now, but we are not like white glove or Michelin star rated. We're very like almost like a blue collar type of situation that's just for everybody, not for an elitist small group or section. It's just for this community here. Like I joke now and I say that my job is actually giving food away. I'm not selling anything anymore. I show up at gatherings or events or charities, or I just donate hella, and that, rambling a little bit. But yeah, back in 2024, it was come up with a concept, and it's like, what can I do with like my particular skill set? And pork, pork all the way. We have these delightful pork sandwiches with the broccoli rabe, and I chose some like funky aged provolone, and we finished it with pecorino toscano, and it's a
Yeah.
distinct sandwich, and it's really, really special. There's a couple spots in the city of San Francisco that are doing something like it, like the Flour and Water Pasta Shop. They have a hoagie thing, and then like I said earlier, Palm City wines are still doing it, but not like us.
Yeah, I think one of the things that is really important here is the stacking of skills to build a business. You're obviously your web presence or whatever you have that you obviously know what you're doing there, and then now you're running a business. You built those skill sets. What is it like to be accountable to others? What is it like to run a business? What is it like to
Yeah,
build my character personally? Because as an entrepreneur, whether we like it or not, if we're the trailblazer, we're the beginning, our character carries the weight,
fully.
generally at the beginning. And that's what I mean about consistent discipline. Everything's a reflection, and you can't give up. The thing I
Yeah.
want to ask you, Matthew, as we're sort of going through this, and we only have a few minutes here, is let's talk about the things that you feel that you learned as an entrepreneur or as a human that you think is most beneficial to you, to yourself, to the businesses. It doesn't matter to the audience. I don't want to put it into a box because I want to sort of let it come naturally. But what is that for you? What is those things where you feel that are sort of those big pivot points for you as an individual, maybe?
Uh, well, I mean, taking aside from like the skill of baking and that craft, like I was still am mostly unprepared for managing a team of 50, 60 people. And I took, I'm still planning on taking more classes on and seminars on leadership and on management. And it's that sort of beginner's mind, that state of mind where you always have to be willing to learn. And whether that's through listening to a podcast or going to a class at a in like Norwich, Vermont, with like a microbiologist, or just having the willingness to be vulnerable and to fail is essential. But
Yeah.
yeah, you just have to know you don't know anything, and you're always going to be learning every day, and just yeah,
Yeah.
some mistakes you can't correct, but other mistakes are going to help shape the path for the future.
Yeah, well, I'm going to anchor this because I think it's important, Matthew, as we're finishing up here, especially for you and where you are also, and scaling a business into the hundreds and even thousands of employees potentially. And I want to say this because this is important in the food industry, and I know there's there needs to be creativity and that mindset in marketing, advertising, food, whatever, and chefs and baking and doing all those things. Okay, so the audience, just bear with me real quick because I'm going to try to cram this in as much as possible really quickly here. Is recipes are basically what the military would call standard operating procedure. You have a recipe, you have the procedures, you have the ingredients, weight, measure. They're very standardized in your business. And if you're really one looks the same as the other, as the other, as the other, and has all the contaminants, the USDA, all the safety, the allergens, all that in one thing per recipe, okay? Especially as you're scaling. Why is this important? Why am I saying this? Because that consistency in that recipe allows you to anchor your entire business to SOPs as a business. You're training your employees in that discipline. Does that mean there's not creativity and joy and stuff like that? Of course. But there can be that in what I would call the boundaries of a safe environment. The safe environment allows us to fail safely in our creativity. The safe environment is the safety of the SOP. So if I'm going to scale my business, as long as I'm creating and I'm writing down the standard operating procedures by which I do everything, the accounting, when I'm doing the ordering every month or every week or every day, depending on my business, and it's the same across all my businesses, regardless of what business that they're in. So standardize the way you do things across your businesses or in your business, and then allow that to be the scalability also. No different than the format of your recipes, no different than the format your accountant's using, for the way they do their accounting, whether it's a cash or accrual basis. That's a format, that's a standardization, just so everyone knows. And why is that important? Because in that, when you don't have to worry about those things, you can do the creative things that are necessary to grow your business and take on risks, like a Jerry's, like a bakery, like taking a bread from a farmer's market to a commissary, to a location, to now a restaurant, okay, and stacking those skills. So I want to anchor that for everyone, because without that, it doesn't exist. It's not we have a miracle here in my family recipe, or I just come up with an idea and it's it. No matter how much we look at Jeff Bezos, the guy didn't make a cent for 7 years working out of his garage. He had to stay consistent and disciplined. Okay. The first order he got was like from Bulgaria, and it was illegally sent in an envelope from a foreign country. And he's like, oh, that's enough for me to think that I'm doing good in the world. I'm sent the book to a country that can't normally get it. They told me how to get it there, or maybe it was Russia, not Bulgaria. I don't remember if I have the story straight. But either way, same context. But that was enough. That little weird thing was enough hope for him, cash in an envelope from a foreign country, to send one book to build Amazon. So think about it, guys. And what is Amazon? And Amazon is standardization of a system that's transportation delivery based now, with an anchor as an online hub. So everything's standardized there. When they buy a business, it gets standardized into their system. Okay, just to give everyone anchoring there.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's a good
Matt.
example.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah,
um, Go ahead, Matthew. Do you have
yeah,
anything that
yes,
you want to add?
yeah. So like the Amazon example is great because it's like having the willingness to believe in yourself and continuing to persevere through a difficult experience is what is ultimately going to bring fruit to your business. Whether that's, I like to use a gardening metaphor sometimes. Like you plant a seed and might take a couple seasons for that thing to start yielding, but um, connect everything together and utilize every skill you've ever developed to make something special. Like I fortunately had this ability to process logic and utilize computers. So that led me to build a spreadsheet system. And that's like now connecting my whole life together with like a new product that I'm hoping to launch here over the summer that's going to help out other bakeries and bakers that are similar to me. And that couldn't have happened if I hadn't spent years in the trenches learning about bread, learning about operations and what we need for invoicing and delivery systems. And that's in my pipeline, and I can't wait to release this to the world.
Yeah, and I think that that's exactly what we're talking about here. One of the things that built our business, and I'm going to let Matthew quick tell us where we can find them online and stuff. But I just want to say this for everything: the best decision we made as a business is we standardized our business through at the time, a central platform. And it was based on Microsoft Dynamic, and we had it developed out for us at the time as a company, because we were large and we need to standardize our hospital issues, long-term care homes, recipes, the way we dealt with our clients across the globe, and our vendors and everything, and it worked. When that system had trouble, we were in trouble. And so that's one of the things that we don't live in that world. Everything's in the cloud now, thank goodness. Actually, but I want everyone to know that that's standardization and what we're talking about when Matthew's developing here. If you are in the bakery business, and having someone that's been in it that can develop that skill for you, it is an advantage. Just because Matthew's in the business doesn't mean anything. It just means that he's giving you something that he learned, and he has a way in his head to deliver a product to us that can help you. Okay, I just want to anchor that for everyone, because I think that that's important. We learn experiences, and then the best thing to do is give it back. Okay. I just, however you can, that's the next level. We grow, we learn, whether it's a podcast, whether it's building a new business, whether it's on to the next level, whether it's media, movies, whatever you decide in life, books, or if you're going to write a book, just make sure you're giving back in some way and using what you've been given to grow an industry, grow the world around you. Because that's what Matthew's doing now. He's about to grow the bakery industry big time. And that's important. Uh, so let's talk about where we
Exciting.
can find, yeah, where, yeah,
Yeah.
where can we,
So So yeah, the product that I'm talking about is not publicly available yet. It's going to be called Yakora, which is meant to be like a ERP for small to medium sized bakeries. And the other shops are available only in person. We don't ship. We're only local here in the Bay Area. So get on a plane, come on out, hang out, visit us here at the beach.
I love it. I appreciate your time, Matthew. I know you have to go. Thank you guys for listening in. Love to talk more to you, Matthew. Anytime you want to get back on, just sign up. I'd
Yeah,
love to continue to talk and
great,
talk
great to
dive
meet
more
you,
into
Justin.
this. Thank you. You
Yep.
too. Yeah, good one. Thank you guys. I love you guys, and we're out.
Have a great day. Peace.